Welcome to Power Hour. Hi, I'm Laura Rogers, and this is our SharePoint Power Hour that we do Wednesdays at 11 Central. Today's topic is going to be the new approvals in Microsoft Flow, and Power Hour is just an hour where I we'll do just, sometimes the demos are fully planned out and orchestrated, sometimes they're more just kind of ad hoc, but we go over, I'm not a programmer, I don't write code. So I like to go over things you can do out of the box in SharePoint, Office 365, without having to write code, without having to do anything, without having to have super technical background. So we've been doing a couple of hundred of these episodes. They're all on my This Wonder Laura YouTube channel. And I'm a Microsoft MVP. I've been an MVP for about 7 years or so. And my background is actually in server admin stuff, so you'll see me do some, things in central admin and talk about a little bit of, user profile service and things like we've done. But my favorite thing in SharePoint is all the advanced functionalities and especially workflows and forms and automating business processes. I really enjoy that. I do that pretty much all day, every day, doing consulting, and it's a lot of fun. So today we're going to go over this new thing that has just come out in the past, couple of months as Microsoft Flow approvals. Now, I started to touch on it a couple of weeks ago when I did my recap of all the new announcements that came out at the SharePoint Virtual Summit. I did about 10 or 20 minutes of going over some of the Flow approval stuff, but this time we have the whole Power Hour is dedicated to that. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. I will go ahead and go over to, if you all could do this too, anybody can go to flow.microsoft.com and sign in, and you can sign in if you have an Office 365 account. You can sign in using that, but you could also just use a Windows Live account to sign in. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. I think that's this one. Here we go. All right. So this is what it looks like when you go to flow.microsoft.com, and you'll notice this new approvals section. And this is this sort of hub where anyone will be able to go and be able to see approvals that are waiting for them. Now, I haven't created any approval flows yet. I don't have any waiting for me to approve. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and walk through. So I'll go ahead and go to my flows, and I have I have a travel site here. So what I want to do is I have a travel request list, and people can request travel. So I'm going to create a simple approval flow that will go ahead and send this to the manager to approve that person's travel. And then we'll go ahead and add some other levels of approvals and go over all the different settings and things like that. And Microsoft's actually announced a few new pretty awesome things that you can do in Flow, and the interface has actually changed too, just recently. All right, so that's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have a travel request list. I actually have a approval status field here. So I don't have that field showing in the form. So let me go ahead and go to the list settings and look at what that is. So I have approval status here is going to be, see, it's got different levels it goes through. Like it starts off as new, it goes to manager approval. That's the first one. And then it goes to VP approval, etc. So as we go through the approvals in the workflow, we'll have it changing this approval status in the list. So I'm just going to leave this screen pulled up right here. Actually, I'm just going to copy these all out to Notepad just so I can reference them and not have to guess or do typos. Okay, so I'll go ahead and create a new flow, and what I'm going to do is I'll just call it new travel. And new travel approval. I'm going to use this new approvals action, but I want to send it to the manager. So before I even do the approval, I need to get the person's manager, who is the person who's filling out the form. So I'll go ahead and go to I have an Office 365. Let's see, Office 365, it's going to give you Get Manager. Office 365 users, and you can see that within this category of Office 365 users, I have Get Manager. So you can also get, if you are a manager, you can get your direct reports, and you can also do other things like do searches for users, but I'm going to just use Get Manager first. So I clicked on that. I think it's thinking about it. Oh, I got to do a trigger. That's why it won't let me do it. Okay, well, I got to do a trigger, silly me, to say when a new travel request is created. I have to decide, what's going to make it sent to my manager. So yeah, don't mind me. All right, when a new item is created, and then I'll just need to get the URL to that site. And that's going to be this URL. And site address. And that site, I need the travel request list. So when a new item is created in the travel request list. And I can rename this when a new travel request is created. I like that because that helps it, me visually to be able to see what's going on in this workflow. So when a new travel request is created, what do I want to happen? This is where I choose an action. And I can just choose Office 365 users, Get Manager. And Get Manager of who? It's pretty simple. So it's going to be the manager of whoever filled in that travel request. So it's going to be the created by person, requester. I actually renamed in this travel request, just regular old custom SharePoint list, I renamed the created by field and just called it requester. So you can, by the way, rename those out of the box fields if you like to. So I'll just say I'd like to get the manager of whoever the requester is. So then once I get the manager, then I have that in my workflow to use it later. All right, get the manager, and then I want to do one of these new approval actions. So I'll just type approval, and it narrows it down. So here, this blue one. Now there is an Office 365 Outlook send approval email one. That is not the one I'm referring to here. This approvals, this blue one, is the one that is tied to this whole approvals section and this whole new sort of interface. Very cool. So I'll say approvals, start an approval. And here are my approval fields. Now this is going to have some different settings in it than the other one, the start and approval one. So if you have a situation where you actually need to change whether it says approved or rejected or the actual outcomes and do different things like that, there are a couple of different actions that will let you do sort of different types of customizations to your approvals. So it's just not going to be this one. It's just going to be, this one's going to have approve and reject and make a comment. So what do I want the title of this approval to be? Approve travel. And then I'll just put for, let's see, the person who created it. So I'll say requester display name. So it's approved travel for whoever that is. And then who am I assigning to? This is why I went and did the get manager thing. See this little section right here where it says get manager? That is the output. Those are my variables that I can use to be able to do things with the value of whoever that manager is. So I'm going to say the email of the manager and then details. So details is going to be like a description. So I'll just say travel to, and I'll put where are they traveling to. So let me skim down this list. Destination, and then let's see, department, and cost see what all this looks like when it comes out in the email. Okay, and then I'm going to have, I actually have a manager field in the list that's why it has all these manager emails. So I actually have a people field in my travel request list where someone could fill out the manager, and that was something that I had created where I was manually sending it to a manager. But in this case, I could just take this data and populate it and put it into that travel request if I want to store the value of who that manager is. So now I need to have a link to the item. So this part gets a little interesting. So let me see. I'm going to try link to item. That looks like a very obvious way to link to the item. An item link description is going to be what it's going to say. So I'm going to make this link say the name of the traveler. So that's the requester display name to, and then where are they traveling to? So that's where I'm going to put the destination. Okay, so that's the item link description. So I'll go ahead for now and just create this flow and see what it does. And then we'll run it and try it out and then see, well, what else would we need it to do? Okay, so now we're done. Look at this new interface. I have my icons representing what actions I'm using in this flow. And I'll go ahead and use my cool little, I'm going to put my whiteboard on here. Okay, so I have this section over here that's got the icons. It's showing me which connections I'm using and so which account that I'm authenticated to. And then it's got owners. So this is when we do those team flows and we share the flow with other people. And that way you'll be able to see who is able to use that flow. I'll probably need to be able to, if I want people to be able to like manually trigger it themselves, then I'll have to add owners to it. And then once I've started running the flow, this area right here is where I'm going to see the history of the flow. I love that I can see that all on this new sort of dashboard for the flow itself. All right, go clear my whiteboard there. Okay. Now I need to make it run. So I'll click cancel and I'll go ahead and fill out a new form. And hopefully I'll have time to be able to convert this to a Power App form and show you, you can actually use the approvals stuff in Power Apps, that approvals connection. All right, where am I going? I think I'll go to Hawaii again. You know what? I need to make the manager field not required, and I need to go ahead and make sure I've got some departments in there. Let me do that real quick. I don't want to have to fill in a manager because I'm going to get the manager automatically. Now, this is something that I had to do when I created this list before when, you know, in SharePoint Designer 2013 workflows, there isn't necessarily a way to automatically get the manager. So just make that not required so I don't have to bother with it. Here we go. This demo, this site, this travel request site is actually what we build. We've built the whole thing top to bottom from scratch in my workflows and forms class. Let's see, I'm gonna go. So I'm going to be updating my workflows and forms class to add some PowerApps stuff to actually put PowerApps in here. But everybody doesn't use PowerApps and Flow yet, so that's why I've been kind of, right now it just uses SharePoint Designer and just out of the box stuff. All right, and I go. Okay, I filled in my travel request. And, oh, I didn't fill in a department. Let me go pick my department. IT. There we go. All right, now this should trigger a flow. We'll go ahead and flip back over here and we'll see if we are required to refresh the page or if it's just going to know and it's just going to show it here. We'll wait a few seconds. What do you guys think? Who else here? I don't know if I got everybody shouting out and saying they're in here and they're hanging out in the chat window and watching and What do you think? What do you think of this new interface? It's pretty awesome. There are no runs. It has not run yet. All right, it failed. Action Get Manager failed. I don't have a manager. That's why Action Get Manager failed. So now this is actually a new, I did that on purpose. This is actually a new thing that Flow has. Yes, Reho, I can do that. This is a new thing that Flow has, that it has some error reporting. So now in my Flow, I can build in doing something different if it fails when it gets a manager. I am the boss. I'm the CEO. I don't have a manager, right, Joelle? So there are going to be either people in your organization like the CEO who don't have a manager, or maybe your Active Directory isn't accurate, and people have, every now and then you'll forget and not put a manager for somebody in there, so then it's not going to populate in here. So to make this flow work, inspect the inputs to this action, ensure they would find the right resource. This action failed because it tried to access something that does not exist. I love all these details. All right, so this is telling me all the details about why my Get Manager failed. And I could even resubmit it if I wanted to. I'm going to go edit my flow. And I want you to notice this blog post that came out. I pulled it up right here. I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna send you guys the link in the chat window here. All right, this is something they recently just added: error handling steps, counters. So error handling, how to add an action after a failure. First, you'll have to figure out which action you want to monitor for failures. So in this case, it's going to be Get Manager. So I want to let's see, select which action you want, and I want to do a run after. All right, so if an action has any type of failure except a timeout, so in this case it wasn't a timeout, or if it was skipped, so this is letting me actually put some error handling in here. Use run after to handle missing records. All right, so if someone's missing a manager, we have a couple of options. We could actually hard code someone else's name in there to be the manager, so that it will get routed to someone else as like a backup person as a manager, which would probably be the best idea, to have someone in there. And then but this is going to be the new method to do this, is to basically add in this error handling. So let me do this. I'm going to do configure run after right here in my workflow. Now I'm not going to spend too much time just doing error handling, because I want to go through this whole approvals part, but we'll go ahead and add that in here. So you can see right here, configure run after. So I click configure run after, and I think I clicked it. Click it again. Maybe not. Oh, come on. Nothing is clickable. Hold on a second. Let me close it and go back into it. Well, let me do this. I wonder if it will only let me, yeah. Cannot configure run action on an action directly following a trigger. Okay, well I'm not going to be able to do it for that one. All right, so instead of using the manager field here, just for me, since I don't have a manager, I'm just going to go say, instead of assigning it to the manager, I'm going to assign it to, I want to send this to myself because I want you to see the approvals that come in. So I'll just put my name in here. There we go. And I just typed my name in there. All right. That is my troubleshooting method right now. Okay, so now I'm going to go trigger it again by creating another new one. That's the fun of having a live demo, is that you get to see me having to type all this stuff in. Can I go? And I'm in IT. That's another thing, the department. We can get the user's department. We don't have to have them fill that out, right? So we'll go ahead and add that in later as well. And we could actually just take that field off of what they have to fill in, and we could just make it so that it just gets their department automatically. All right, so I went ahead and created one. So I can see this is the previous run that failed right here. So let's go ahead and click See All, and I'll just wait a few seconds for that to refresh and show the new run. Yeah, I think from what I could see from the error handling, that while we wait for this, that it didn't want to run that on the Get Manager. So oh my goodness. Dun, dun, dun. Waiting. In the meantime, anyway, so it's going to show up. I'm going to open up approvals over here in another tab. It's going to show up over here. So for the person that gets assigned an approval, they're going to have this interface. So let me go ahead and show you. I want you guys to all do this. I want you to go make sure you have the Flow app installed on your phone. And when you go to the Flow app, you'll have a new tab at the, I'm just holding my phone up. You'll have a new tab at the top that says Approvals. And so that is where just typical end users, think about like managers, VPs, people walking around, they're busy, they're on their phones, they're going all over the place, they're traveling. They can just see the approvals that they need to approve right there on the approval screen in the app, and it will actually ping and pop up when you have something to approve. Or you can get a random phone call while you're doing a demo. So that's going to show their list of the things waiting for them to approve right there on that Approvals tab. So this is what it looks like. It's not just something that they have to go to in the browser, but it's something that they'll be able to get to no matter where they are. And to me, those people, especially those VPs and CEOs, that the C-level people that are traveling a lot, those are usually the ones that it's helpful to have them available on the go like that. It didn't trigger it that time. Let's see. I filled out a new one and it didn't trigger it. That's awesome. Now that's another thing about flows, is you can't necessarily set it to either manually trigger or also be triggered when an item is created, like you can with SharePoint Designer. So in this case, I couldn't just go back to it and say, well, let me just quickly manually trigger it. If you manually trigger it, you'd actually have to have a completely different flow to be able to manually trigger those. I'm going to go try and create a new one and just see what's wrong with it and see if I can get it to work. Sorry about that. IT. It's probably gonna, like, both of them are gonna trigger at the same time or something. Okay, so let me go back to my flows. I can also see that these are kind of the other things I can do with it. I can save as. So save as will be useful if I need to have just a quick copy of it, or like kind of use it as a template. Failed 21 seconds ago. All right. Oh, so I'm not, okay. I needed to take the Get Manager completely out. So even if it says Get Manager and I'm not doing anything with that value and I'm not even using it, I needed to take the action completely out. Sorry about that. All right, I'll just remove it. Delete. Fine, got it. All right. I'm going on multiple trips, like all in the same week. Isn't that great? Are you all trying this along with me? That'd be fun. All right, so that one is going to trigger and it's not going to error out because I completely took out the Get Manager step. And that's another difference between these and SharePoint Designer, because in SharePoint Designer, usually if it tries to get something where you're not actually using that value, it's not really going to necessarily affect it like this one did. It was trying to get the manager, even though it wasn't even using the Get Manager values later in the workflow. It's still, since it couldn't get a manager, it just errored out. Okay, let's see. Another thing I want to go over, and hopefully we don't spend too much time troubleshooting this, is we'll go ahead and go to PowerApps, and this approvals action that we're using, this, well, not necessarily just an action, it's actually a connection that you can pull. Have you guys seen this? You can pull this into PowerApps, and instead of having to create a flow to send an approval, you can use the approval action directly in your Power App. And as soon as somebody submits that form, it is sending the approval like instantaneously. It's not going and waiting for a flow to trigger. It's just directly sending it. So that's one of those things that you kind of weigh with, you know, your logic and what you're using, whatever technology you're using, is kind of just try out. You know, you can use the logic in the form, or you can use it in the workflow, and just kind of try both and see which one's that you're gonna like the best. I'm going to do another one here. This is getting real old. Now with the error handling, I'm noticing that it does error handling on actual errors. But as far as why these aren't even triggering, I'm not sure. Okay, so here's one that started running 7 seconds ago. Okay, so that one's running. It's waiting for approval. So now when I go to my approvals page here, this is the approval interface. So it says approved travel, Laura Rogers. And then when I click on it, it's showing me this whole interface, this whole window, all about this box that I clicked on. Let me go ahead and turn my my little whiteboard on. Okay, so I have each thing that I'm going to be approving is going to show. They're going to show as a bunch of boxes on this received request page. It's going to show who it's from and when it was requested. These are the details that I typed in. So remember when I was configuring the action in the workflow, and I put in a few values from the form that was filled in. So here are the details. It's letting the person know. And then the person can actually go click the link to go look at the item. So this is the travel request form that got filled in. And I actually have this link going to the display form. And it's showing me the form. So this is how the person can go quickly look at the full form. And then I like the way it takes it to a different window so they don't get lost and then they're away from their approvals page. So then this is where they can approve or reject. Now after they click to approve or reject, then, let me clear my whiteboard here. Then it's going to give them the ability to make comments. All right, and then they can confirm their comments. So whether they approve or reject and their comments, those are all values we can use later on in the workflow. All right, so now we're going to go back to looking at, so we can see this ran successfully. Go ahead and refresh that. See, it's finished. I didn't have it doing anything afterwards, so let's go ahead and edit that. All right, after a travel request is created, it starts at approval, but you got to write back to the item. You got to say that it was approved. You've got to maybe send somebody an email. You got to do something else, because all this one does is it just they have an approval, they approve it, and then it goes off their dashboard. So, we got to have a record of that. We got to do something else with that data. So from there, that's where we can decide. Now we can put a condition in here to say if it gets approved, do something. If not, do something else. So let's do that. Let's see. I will do a new step, add a condition. So my condition is going to be based on what is equal to what. So their response, we'll scroll down a little bit, see the response, approve or reject. And again, in this approve action, it's only approve and reject. You can use some of those other actions like the other Outlook ones that have to do with approvals and getting feedback. Those will let you actually customize what the options are going to be. So response is equal to approved. Then that's where it's going to approve, see? So, and it's not approved, it's approve. So if the response is equal to approve, do this, otherwise do that. Now, if they're approved, I want to go ahead and move this item on to the next step in the workflow. So I'll go ahead and do SharePoint, and I want to edit. So I want to update an item. Which item do I want to update? I want to update that same item that they had filled in at the very beginning. But I still need to go ahead and put the URL to my site. So I'll go ahead and go travel to is the URL to my site. And I'll put that here as that's the item I want to update. And the list in that site is my travel request list. And what's the ID? This is the ID from when the new item got created. Destination. Now, this is kind of ridiculous that it makes you fill in the required fields again right here because these values are already filled in. So I'm going to have to go select the parameters from basically what they've already filled in and re-add them in here just because they're required fields. So trip start is required. So all these other, they already have values. We're just updating the existing item. All right, so I want, basically what I want to do is I want to make that manager, that status of that travel, I want that to be the value that we update. But guess what? It's not showing here. Now there are a couple of different reasons why it could be not showing here. I'm pretty sure I know why. It's a choice field. It's a drop-down choice. So you saw that we went and edited the list and we saw that it was a choice field of several different values. Or potentially it could be that it's not in the content type, it's not showing in the form. So there are a couple different things. So let's go change it. Instead of being a choice field, change it to a text field, and I'll bet it'll show here. So I'm going to go ahead and update this. All right, and then go back here, and I'm going to go change this. Go to list settings. And you know, it doesn't really make sense to have it be a choice field anyway, since end users aren't ever going to be filling this out. So we'll just change it to a single line of text. Does that make sense? All right, you guys are very quiet. Okay, that's fine. I'll just go make sure that it saved that change that I made. Yeah, it says single line of text. Okay, good. Now, we'll go back to, make sure I'm on the right one. Let me close that. Okay. Edit my flow and see if that field appears, right? So when I update the item, look at that, approval status. So this is where I want to change the approval status to, it already, got approved by the manager, so the approval status needs to be changed to VP approval. And what else would I need to write to this? So I could write to it that manager field that we obtained. We don't, so first of all, it's a people field. We don't have people fields available to us to write to from Flow yet. And then the other thing we were going to talk about was that department dropdown. Now the department dropdown is a lookup field, so I'm not going to write to that one because actually in my list, in my site, I actually have a lookup list of VPs where it actually, you know, you could set the workflow to go get the VP of for the department for that person. So what I'm going to do here though is I'm going to set this to VP approval so that it changes the status, and then that way it's moving on to the next stage, right? And then what else would I want to do? I might want to send them an email letting them know that it's been approved, but if they don't approve it, I want to set that approval status to rejected. So if they don't approve it, if no, add an action, and I'll do another update item. SharePoint update item, come on. All right, and then I get to put my site address in here again. Travel request list. And the ID is just the ID of the item I created. And then it makes me fill in this destination and everything again. Dun, 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 destination, trip start. Okay, and then the approval status is going to be rejected. Okay, and now I could just send an email after one of those two things happen and just put the parameter of whether it was approved or rejected in there, right? No, you're right. That's a great question, Todd, but there isn't an option in here to just copy this and paste it over there. So that would be a good thing to have though, yeah. All right, so I'm going to send an email, and that's going to be Office 365 Outlook. Send an email. I'm going to send this to the person who created the travel request, so that in my case is the requester email. Subject, travel to blah, blah, blah. The status of your travel request. And this is where you can put the value from, I'm scrolling and scrolling, from the start approval thing. So this is where I can put the response, and then and then I can put information about who did that, so the approver name. All right. So that is, there are more advanced options you could do. You could CC people, you could actually put an attachment here, etc. I'm just going to go ahead and update my flow. Now I'll go ahead and add one more travel request in here, but then what I want to do is go ahead and customize this with PowerApps and show you how the approval thing works in there. So maybe we can have it, whoever the manager's manager is, we could put that in there. Let's see. Trying to think. Okay. Go ahead and fill out another one. Let's see, I'll go to Timbuktu. And that's going to cost a lot of money. And I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to mess with the approval status. Okay, that is going to run. The flow is going to run. It's going to send me an email. Let me go do something real quick in here. Let me pull this over here while I wait for that. Okay, let's see if that just pops in here without me having to refresh it while I go do this real quick. Dun, dun, dun. All right, did it appear? No, it didn't appear yet. Let's see. is that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this, and I'm going to do the Power App, and then I'm going to open this in another window so that I can log in as another user, so you can see how that it could get, so when the manager opens the form, how it can get their manager. All right, and it's another way of getting the manager inside of PowerApps instead of just inside of the approvals. All right, let's go ahead and refresh this. So it's basically just running on every other item that I create in here. It's real nice. All right, I'm not going to wait for that. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Power App stuff. So I can go to this list. I can click Power Apps and choose Create an App. I've had more luck with Power Apps in Edge, by the way. In Chrome, it just keeps crashing, doesn't let me do it. So travel request. Play the Jeopardy song while Power Apps and Flow are doing their thing. Yeah, great idea, Joelle. I'll mention some pros and cons between this and SharePoint Designer approval. Oh my gosh. All of the tasks have always been what's annoyed me about SharePoint Designer approval, those task processes. I like to just keep it as simple as possible. And the fact that this has got an app and it's got the approval screen that already exists, and it's got all that stuff built into it, and it doesn't make the end user go to all these multiple places and have this task list floating out there with a bunch of tasks no one ever completes. And I think, and this is modern, of course, and of course, you know, mobile. So those are a lot of things that I like about this better. A negative, though, is going to be document libraries. Last time I looked, like last week, we still can't get metadata on document libraries. So there is no way to know who created the document to be able to send an approval email to that person's manager, because you have no metadata for documents in libraries. That this demo is in a SharePoint list. It's in a custom list. It's not in a library. So I'm skipping the little tutorial here. So now, when the idea is we're progressing now from, we had the item, the travel request item that's getting filled in, which is this form. It's going to the manager for approval. The manager gets a link to it. They go look at it. They approve it. And then what do we want to do next is we want to be able to have that next person be able to get their manager, but we're just going to get their manager in a different way. I'm going to show you that action in here. Someone asked, is there a pause functionality in Flow? I'll have to just go look in there and see if there's a pause or wait action. I haven't, but I'll have to do that in a minute. I don't want to get myself too sidetracked here. Okay, so add a data source. And see, approvals is a data source that I can add. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so now I've added my data source. I can also add that data source that will get me the manager, and that is this users data source, Office 365 users. All right. Okay. So what do I want to do? I want to have them go to this form. I want them to see a travel request that they need to approve, and be able to have them approve it and have it go to that person's manager. So we'll go ahead and edit. Let me zoom on this. Edit this screen of the edit form. I'm not going to spend too much time creating a new screen and things like that, because again, this is just an hour-long demo, trying to demo all these things. So what I'm going to do is add a show you how it has the ability to go get the person's manager in here. And I'm actually going to do that. I'm just going to create a new screen where I'm just going to do only that on the screen, just so you can see what it's doing and how it works, just to kind of have it like a little clean area to do that. So I'll just do a new screen here. And so on this screen, I'm going to just put a box on here that's going to show me this information, so I can just get that information about the logged in user, their manager's name. All right, so first of all, I want to name this. I'm just going to rename it my manager. And I'm going to refer to this. So as for the text, as for what it's going to have in it, this is where I am going to use that data source. All right, Office 365 users. See, it's got, as soon as I start typing it, it says Office 365 users.manager. And then whose manager do I want to get? All right, now in this case, we can just say get the manager of the logged in user, which I don't have a manager. So user get the manager of the logged in user. I don't have a manager again, so I'm going to just type in the email of a manager of a person who I want to get their manager. Oh, dot, yeah. I need to put it in quotes, sorry. Actually, I need to put it in a separate field. Hold on a second. All right, I'm going to put it in another little field. This is covering it up. There we go. I'm going to put another little text box on here because I want to store Joelle's name. Okay, so I'm going to say this text box, I'm going to say me. I want to get the manager of whatever values in that text box. So Office 365 users.manager of me dot text dot mail. So I need the email address of that person. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Do you see that? And it just pulled in my name. So it's got this text box is just representing who the logged in user is, which I just typed her name in here because I want it, you know, because I don't have a manager. And it's automatically getting her manager, which is me. Pretty cool. Y'all like that? So that's how we can get the manager of somebody. So I have this my manager field. And then if I want to send something for approval to that manager, let's go over to the edit screen. I'm going to go add a new button on here. It's kind of not that much real estate, but I'm going to insert a button. I'm just going to put a cute little star on here. Make it yellow, or let's see. It's kind of, it doesn't really fit there. Hold on. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. Okay, this little random button, I want to put it on a separate button because I want to show you how it's going to use this action, and I don't want to get it all mixed up with all the other actions, right? So I'm going to take this and I'm going to say, I'm going to start typing approval. So what do I want to happen when people click on this? See, as soon as I start typing approval, this is the approvals connection that I created. I'm going to create version 2 is the latest version, and that's just automatically the version that we're using in the workflow. So I'm going to do version 2, and then look, it's telling me all the values. So doesn't this look familiar? title assigned to. So those are all the values that it needs, which are exactly, let me go flip back over here, go edit this and show you how it's similar. See, when I go start an approval, got title, assigned to, details, link, description. So it's all these exact same things, but I need to just put those out here in the Power App. So for example, the title is going to be, in this case, I'll just put destination will be the title. Or not, let's see. Oh, let me see. So it doesn't need to have the name of the field. It needs to have the name of the box that value is in. So in this case, the destination right here, it's the name of this text box that the destination is in is data card value 14. I'm going to rename this and call it destination box. So that's very helpful to rename these to something more useful. Notice I didn't have to unlock that to rename it either. So the destination is going to be destination box, see? And then assigned to, that's where I can put the manager. So I'll put my manager, see, my manager value. And then what does it want after that? Oh, this is a little funky, huh? So this has got this whole set of syntax where it needs to have information about all those extra fields, like the notification, the URL they need to go to, the details, and the item link. Again, just like all the values that we saw that we would fill in the workflow. This is the sort of more messy looking way to fill it in inside of the Power App. We just have to use the same syntax they have laid out here. So I'll start typing notification URL, and then what do I want the URL to be? I'm just going to put, I've got a couple of different URLs. So it's got details, it's got notification URL text, details text, item link text, and item link description. So what do those match up to? So details text, so notification URL, details text, item link description. Details text, item link description. The thing that I'm not clear on is the notification URL text. So I'm just going to type something. HTTPS. And I put that in quotes, and then it just needs a comma, and then it needs the details. And the details are that's all that text that it had, like just all the extra information about the thing that I'm getting approved. So this is where I can put some additional, some of the fields from this, etc. I'm just going to, for time's sake, I'm just going to type something in here. And then the next thing I need is the item link. Now, item link, this is tricky. So when you're doing a brand new form, you're not going to have the item link yet because the item doesn't exist yet. That is why in this process, in my example, I'm using a form that's not brand new. This is a form that's already been created. This is not something that I'm running that I want to run when it's new. I want to say like, well, the approver is, going into an item that's already been created. I spent like an hour or two the other night trying to get it to, you can't figure out the item link because you don't have the ID of it because it doesn't exist yet. So you'd have to do something like make an action, create the thing and save it so you have an ID, and then go back and query the list and get that ID and then put it back in here, and you'd have to build all that in. So again, this is not going to be one that's brand new, or it wouldn't have an item link. So for item link, I actually have, we have that value in here. So like when I go to data sources and I am looking at my, my travel requests list is going to have that value of the item link. So, and just to make it really easy so we can see that on here, I'm going to add that to my form. So see link to item. I'm just adding it on here just for expedience sake. So now I can see the link to the item. And I want to, I don't necessarily want to edit that though. I'll just put it on the display form. details screen. See, link to item. I'll just add that. So then I have this value. This is, I'm going to rename it link to item. Item, and I'm going to call it travel item, just so I know that's what that is. Okay, link to travel item. So the value of this is what is going to be able to be my URL. And then go back over here and finish writing this thing. All right, item link to travel item. And then item link description could be, I could just type some words in here, or I could put the name of the destination in here. I'll put the destination box there. All right, is that all? Close. Close parentheses. All right, so now it doesn't have a little error anymore. It's all filled in. I have no red. It's all functioning. So in this case, I'll go ahead and we're just going to leave it as it is, just in this sort of weird place, because I want to be able to test this out. So I'm going to save this. Someone's asking, can tasks be turned off? Just don't use a task list. Yeah, that's my solution. All right, save this. And then I want to share this so that other people in the organization can use it. Now, of course, they would have to have access to this travel request site to be able to use it, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just add everyone in my org for now and click save. And then this is where I'll need to log in as a different user to pretend that I'm, to make sure that it can get my manager here so that I can see what it looks like as a different user. Okay, so let me make sure that that user has access to this site. Site, people and groups. Members, sure. All right, now the person that I want to share this travel site with is going to be able to be a member and add things to this. And I'll go ahead and log in as that user in a different browser window. Let me go make sure that the Power App works right now. See, here's my travel request app, so I can go here and open it. Cool, right? Okay. Sorry, typing a password. All right, so here's my travel request list. I've got all the items that are existing here that I can click on. Now notice I didn't edit any of this or make it pretty or change the order that it's in any, or at all. Let's see. When I edit it, here's that button. So that button is going to send it for approval to whoever my manager is, but I don't have a manager, right? I'm going to go add one more thing before I go in and log in as that other user, and I want to be able to see, I want to be able to get to that other screen, right? The one that I created the one that I need to be able to see who the manager is, to see that it's holding that value. I just want to be able to quickly have a button that will let me go to it to just see what's on it, just for testing purposes, right? So right now I have this other screen, but it's not doing anything. I can't get to it in any way. So first of all, I'll make this have user email. So whoever the logged in user is, that's going to be their email address. And I will put a button on, another button on the edit screen. This is what apps look like when I create them, when I'm testing them. They're just a big mess. Another random button that is going to just take me to this other screen. Navigate to screen 1. I didn't even name it anything nice. Okay, save. All right. All right, so that is saved, and I'll go back over here to, I'll go to my list. There we go. So here's my list, and here's where I will be able to go in and open the PowerApps. So let's go look at it again. Oh, you got to be kidding me. It's not letting me. I reset a password, and then I realized that it was making me change it when I logged in. I didn't want to do that. Okay. Okay, going to this other browser. And see, you saw that error? That error was because I have no manager. So it's the same concept that we saw in the flow of having no manager and getting an error, but this one's just using that same approvals connection and getting that no manager error inside of the PowerApp. Let's see. Logging in. And this is, get my site. And I'll go ahead and pull up this other browser window as this other user. So I really just want to open up this list as this other user. Open up the app as the other user and be able to see that value. Open. Oh, all these authentication screens are killing me. Almost done. Oh, okay. Runtime error. That's I'm gonna have to wrap that one up. It always gets tricky when you have to do a demo and log in as different users, because it gets confusing and then you have all these different windows open and then you're just confusing the audience by doing that. But I really wanted to, in this case, when you're trying to get a manager, get information about someone else and like send something through an approval process, it really helps to be able to see what each of those people along the way are going to see. But apparently Firefox didn't like my Power App, or something happened. I'm not going to worry about that right now. But I went ahead and see if you have any other last questions and let you know that we're not having Power Hour next week. Let's see. Sandy says to get the item link, I wonder if you could use the flow template that does the old style approval on the item to figure out the syntax of an item link. Well, it's Sandy, it's that it's that the item doesn't exist yet, so you don't have an ID to be able to get the link to it. That's the trick. I mean, you'd have to wait till after it exists to be able to go get that value. So you would have to just build in an action that submits it and then goes and gets the value and then does something with it, like on another page or something. So, all right, cool. Well, I think that was a fun demo. I really enjoy trying all these new fun things in PowerApps and Flow, and kind of taking things that I've done in the past with other types of workflows and other forms and kind of translating them to how I would do it with these new technologies. So that's one of the things I was doing with this travel request. So as you can see, it's a really interesting balance. We have a lot of really, really cool new modern things and modern functionalities that exist. And Flow has been updated tremendously. They're adding, you can see they're adding in the error handling and adding in, like, they changed the way the screen looks, and they're constantly improving it. But you can still see that there are a couple of things, that little workarounds that I had to do, like you don't have choice fields or you don't have people fields, and kind of little things that you have to change or figure out a different way to do. So it's interesting. You'll be able to use, move some of your processes to Flow and PowerApps, but you kind of just, you have to try them out to be able to see and weigh the differences and what work, the extremity of the workarounds that you would have to do maybe. So good times. All right. Well, we're not having a power hour next week, but thank you all for coming. And I had a good time showing you all the new approvals action in Flow and in PowerApps. Bye, everybody.